Should the Electoral College be abolished? Many would say yes, we should abolish it, and they would give some good reasons, and they would also give some bad reasons as to why it should be abolished. And there's also the side that would say no, we should not abolish it. Within that group, there is those who want reform, maybe to a great extent or to a moderate extent, and then there are some who perhaps don't want it to be changed at all. The side I will be arguing for is pro-Electoral College. More specifically, I will be arguing for reform of the Electoral College. First, let's discuss the history and the government structure the United States has. The United States is a constitutional federalist republic. It has three branches of government: the legislative, executive, and judicial. The legislative branch handles the making of laws, the executive branch handles the enforcing of those laws, and the judicial sees whether the laws are constitutional or not. In the legislative branch, there are two parts of it: the House of Representatives and the Senate. The number of House representatives each state gets is based on the population of that state. However, the Senate is 2 representatives for each state, regardless of the population size. In Article 2, Section 1 of the U.S. Constitution is where you will find the Electoral College listed. The Electoral College is a formal body of electors which elect the President of the United States of America. Each state has as many electors as it has representatives within Congress. That would include the House and the Senate. Throughout its history, the Electoral College has had quite a few changes. The first of these was the 12th Amendment. This allowed the separation of ballots for determining the President and Vice President of America. The 15th Amendment, entitled in Section 1, said that the rights of citizens in the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on the account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. The 19th Amendment expanded on that, saying that you cannot discriminate on the basis of sex. And finally, the 23rd Amendment gave the District of Columbia 3 electoral votes. How the electors are distributed within the states is up to the states to decide. Currently, 48 of the 50 states have a winner-take-all system. That means if the candidate won a plurality of the popular vote within that state, they would get all the electoral votes regardless as to whether one district voted predominantly for another candidate or not.
On Election Day, tens of millions of Americans go to a voting booth and cast their ballots for president and vice president, except that they're not really casting their ballots for president and vice president. What counts in the Electoral College are the votes of the 538 electors. Now, these electors usually look at who the majority of their state voted for and vote with them, but still, they could vote for whoever they want.
The problem with the argument of faithless electors is that that can be easily fixed. Rather than having individual electors, it can be replaced with a mathematical system within every state. The other thing I would like to bring up is that the majority of electors have been consistent with what the popular vote in their state was. They've been consistent with it. They usually do not vote outside of their party lines. And because of this, there has never been a problem where faithless electors led to a different president being president. Now, I think it is valid to change this problem because it is still a potential problem, but it's not likely to affect the outcome of the Electoral College.
In a fair democracy, everyone's vote should count equally, but the method that the United States uses to elect its president, called the Electoral College, violates this principle by making sure that some people's votes are more equal than others. How you can become president with only 22% of the popular vote by taking advantage of the Electoral College today. Don't believe that's possible in a democracy? Just watch. Not once, not twice, but thrice in American history, the candidate with the most votes from the people actually lost because of the Electoral College. 3 errors in 55-plus elections is a failure rate of 5%. Would anyone tolerate a sport where, by a quirk of the rules, there was a 5% chance that the loser would win? Not likely. Given how much more important electing the President of the United States is, that's a rather dangerously high percentage of the time to get it wrong.
My counter to this is that is the ad populum fallacy. Just because something is the majority of people who like something doesn't mean it is good or just or moral or right. The other problem with this argument is that's kind of the point of the Electoral College. Now, yes, some of the founders wanted to have a popular vote, but then there were some that didn't want that at all. So they decided to do a compromise, in which they would have the Electoral College. The US presidential election is not one election. It's a bit of a misnomer. It is actually 51 elections. The Founding Fathers didn't take this lightly. They thought this matter was one of the most important things within our style of government. The founders spent months of extensive deliberation on the topic of presidential election. They deemed it as one of the most difficult issues facing the Constitutional Convention. Also, going by national popular vote would make it so that smaller states could not get their interests heard by the federal government, and only the larger populated urban cities and counties would get representation. Now, yes, states that are considered swing states get the majority of the attention compared to that of the smaller states. However, small states still get some of the attention because they can change. For example, Pennsylvania was a safe state originally for the Democrats. For 6 separate elections, Pennsylvania voted Democrat. Then it flipped red. Same thing happened with Michigan. It also flipped red. It was a safe blue state originally. So the argument that the smaller states do not get representation is a bit false, because they can get representation, and if they don't, they could flip. They could change who they vote for. Now, could the Electoral College be improved? Yes. I'm for fixing some things. For example, I don't like gerrymandering. Gerrymandering is a problem, I think. The other thing is faithless electors, as we talked previously. I think that is a problem and should be fixed. The other thing I would like to see fixed is getting rid of winner-take-all states. I don't like winner-take-all states. I think we should go with each district gets to have its vote go to whichever candidate was the popular vote within that district. The last point I would like to bring up is that popular vote system and ranked choice voting systems are not going to necessarily be any different than the Electoral College, and actually may be even worse at getting a plurality or the majority of the voting populace.
A candidate can win the Electoral College with just the 11 biggest states. This collection may seem unlikely, but as urbanization and the politics it creates continues, it becomes increasingly likely.
Is this possible? Yes. Is it likely? No. And as I have said in the previous counter, I am against winner-take-all states. I do not like the winner-take-all system. We can get rid of that system. That way it reduces the chances of something like that happening. And there's still the problem that a popular vote and a ranked choice vote would still get only certain portions of the country. So again, the Electoral College is preferable for getting a national coalition. And the reason why I say a national coalition is good is because we want to keep the nation in unity. It is not a good idea to have only certain portions of the country being heard, because that could create destabilization if only the urban cities and urban counties are listened to. The other thing is that the US is not really quite one nation. It is multiple nations that are in a union to make a sort of one nation. Each state has its own values, laws, and culture. To treat the US as if it is like one nation is like treating the United Kingdom as one nation. The whole point of having the union is so that we are stronger together, so that we can defend each other, not to tell each other what to do. So long as states are not violating people's natural rights, they should be able to do what they want.
First of all, It's really undemocratic. It's so utterly wrong. Yes, we have democracy. It's called voting. Americans do it every 2 years.
Now, this is where the style of government the US has becomes important, like I said it would. Because the US really isn't a democracy. It has a lot of undemocratic things about it. So here's the list. We have the Senate, with 2 senators for each state regardless of population. We have federalism, in which powers are split between the federal government and the state governments. Our judicial system, in which our judges are appointed by the president and then confirmed by the Senate. To propose new amendments, you need to either have 2/3 of both the House and the Senate each, or have 2/3 of the state legislators. And that's just to propose it. Then you need 3/4 of the states to vote in favor of that amendment. So to say that the Electoral College is undemocratic and for that reason we should get rid of it is ridiculous. Unless your plan is to also get rid of all those other systems we have in place that are undemocratic. So in conclusion to this point, the US is not a democracy, but a constitutional federalist republic. The final con that people like to bring up is that the Electoral College disincentivizes voting. If anything, that would be a good thing. You do not want everyone to vote. In fact, you want very few people to vote. You want only the people who are the most knowledgeable of the political candidates and of what is actually good for the country to vote. I'm pretty sure if 50% of the US population believed the earth was flat, we wouldn't want those people voting, would we? So no, it's not necessarily better if more people vote. In reality, it should probably be even harder to vote. Is the Electoral College perfect? No, it is not perfect. However, I do believe it is better than the biggest proposed alternatives, which would be a national popular vote or a ranked choice vote. Both of those systems don't guarantee that a candidate will get the majority of the vote, nor do they decrease the chances of a fraudulent election, unlike the Electoral College. They also run the risk of electing a very radical candidate, either radically authoritarian on the left or radically authoritarian on the right. And ranked choice voting doesn't necessarily guarantee for you to rank your favorite candidate first. So in conclusion, I believe the Electoral College should not be abolished. Should there be reform? Yes. But abolishment? No. The mode of appointment of the Chief Magistrate of the United States is almost the only part of the system which has escaped without severe censure. I venture somewhat further and hesitate not to affirm that if the manner of it be not perfect, it is at least excellent. Alexander Hamilton. If you like this video, please give it a like, subscribe, share it, comment down below and tell me what you thought. Follow me on all my social media like Twitter and Parler. Also consider following me on BitChute and Libri. Also don't forget to check out the YouTube community page. I post stuff there periodically. I also have a new website, so go check that out as well. And if you really like my content, please consider donating to my Patreon or to my Ko-fi. Do all this, and I'll see y'all later.